Hey guys, welcome to lecture number 5 of Urdu IT Academy's English for Professionals. Today we're going to go over verb conjugations and tenses again, because I do remember that last time was confusing, and so we're going to go over it again just to make sure that you have it. In this lecture, you will be able to conjugate and understand verb conjugations, understand do versus does, past versus present mentality, and use verb tenses and understand proper usage and placement of verb tenses. At the end of this lecture, you should know English well enough to write a professional email, write a professional letter, and use English in both a casual and professional context. Let's get started. Tenses. These are the same tenses that we discussed last time. We're just going to go over them one more time in much more detail, okay? So we have 6 tenses: the simple, the present, perfect, the simple past, the past perfect, the future, and the future perfect, okay? Don't worry about the definitions next to it. You'll understand them in a tiny bit. Let's review. There is the simple present tense. This is the first tense that you guys learned. You use this in 4 cases: when we are completing an action that repeats over and over again, when we are stating a fact, when we are talking about a habit, and when we are discussing something that is common knowledge or things that are usually or almost always true. Okay? So, I want you to pause the video right here and go over these questions that I've put right here. Answer them to the best of your ability, and when you're done, replay the video and I'll give you the correct answers, okay? Pause. So the correct answer to number 1, they speak English at my company. Is this A, an action that repeats, B, a fact, C, a habit, or D, something that is generally true? The answer is D, something that is generally true. It can't be A, because nothing is happening over and over again. It can't be B, because a fact is something that is 100% true. It can't be a habit, because there's nobody doing it. And it has to be D, because while almost everybody at your company speaks English, that does not mean that 100% of the time English is the language spoken at your company. So it is something that is generally true, something that is almost always true, but not always true. Number 2, I get up in the morning and shower and brush my teeth. This is C, a habit. It is an action that repeats over and over. However, this is not an action that repeats over and over again by itself. This is something that you will consistently do at a specific time. That's why it's called a habit. So, it is not A, but it's close to A. It's not B, because it's not 100% true, as a fact would be. A fact is something like dogs have 4 feet. And D, something that is generally true. This isn't generally true either, because we do know that this is true. So it is C, a habit. I ride the bus to the office. This is an action that repeats. This isn't a habit, because a habit is something that you voluntarily choose to do. The reason that you ride a bus to the morning is something that is generally outside of your control. Okay, so what is the simple present tense? Things that happen over and over again, like riding the bus, or for facts, like dogs have 4 feet. The president lives in the White House. It's for habits. I chew my pencil. It is for I wake up every morning and brush my teeth, or I shower every day. It is for things that are always or generally true. It is rainy in the winter. It's cold in the winter. This is generally true. Now let's talk about conjugation. Verbs that end in O, CH, SH, SS, X, or Z, we add ES in the third person, okay? So when you have the word go, you add ES and it becomes goes. He goes, she goes, we goes, okay? If it's first person, third person, means that it does not involve you. He, she, they does not involve you, okay? I, anything that involves I, this is first person, is conjugated a little bit differently. For verbs that end in a consonant is any letter that isn't A, E, I, O, or U, and Y, we remove the Y and add IES, okay? So instead of marry, marries. She marries him. He marries her. Study becomes studies. For verbs that end in a vowel, that is A, E, I, O, or U, we add S, okay? So play becomes plays, enjoy becomes enjoys, say becomes says, okay? Past tense versus present perfect. Past tense informs you of things that happened in the past. Present perfect is when things started in the past and are still going or only recently ended, okay? I studied last night. This is past tense because it tells you specifically where it stopped. It tells you that this happened and then it stopped happening. I have studied 2 chapters already. You've studied 2 chapters, but you're still going. It started in the past, but it still continues up until this moment. That's why it's present perfect. The past tense is conjugated exactly the same way as the simple perfect we just discussed. The only difference is that instead of the S, IES, or ES, we use D, IED, and ED. Okay? So, marries is wrong here. You would use married to tell you about somebody that got married in the past. Okay? So, played, said, things like that. You use D instead of S. Examples of conjugations. He studies, past or present. I studied, past or present. He studies is present. He is currently studying. I studied is past. I studied at a time that is not now. It's pretty easy once you get used to it. The past perfect teaches you more about the past. I had lived with my relatives in Texas once before I moved in with them. In this example, what we're saying is, I had lived. This tells you something that happened in the past with my relatives in Texas once before I moved in with them. So both of these events, I moved and I lived, happened in the past. But I lived tells you more about I moved. When I use had lived, it's called the past perfect because even though it's over, it tells you more about the action that I am currently performing. Future tense is very, very easy. Future tense is simply something that has not happened yet but will in the future. In the future tense, we use 2 different phrases or verbs, will and going to be. This is going to be a great year. I will buy a motorcycle. Both of those are future tense. Use will when you want to express a promise or complete a voluntary action. When you are promising somebody that you will do something, I promise that I will buy you a game. It is a voluntary action and a promise. It is something that you will do in the future. A voluntary action is something that you choose to do yourself. I will work out on Monday. I will not cheat on this test is another example of a promise. I will go to the gym on Monday is an example of something that you are doing for yourself. Either way, you use will. Use going to be when you want to express a plan or a prediction. He is going to vacation. Where is he going to vacation? It doesn't matter. What does matter is that he is going to vacation. It is a plan. It has not happened yet. You can use will to make predictions as well. Next year will be a great year. You are predicting that next year will be a great year, but you don't know it. Next year is going to be a great year is acceptable as well. You can use both to make predictions. To be verbs. These are the most important verbs in the English language. They tell you that something is at the moment, that something exists, and that something is doing in action, that something is completing in action. I breathe. That tells you that I breathe. There is no is to be verb there, right? However, if we were to use a to be verb, I am breathing. It tells you I exist and what I am doing. I am is the to be verb for I. When the actual word is used, be, you take out the to and you convert it into whatever you need it for. So when you're using be for I as the subject, be becomes am. When you are using be for you, you are. Be becomes are. When the subject is he, be becomes is. When the subject is she, be becomes is. When the subject is they, be becomes are. When the subject is we, be becomes are. It, when the subject is it, be becomes is. These are all the present tense forms of the family. Practice these for a few minutes by forming your own sentences. I want you to pause the video here, take each of these and make a sentence for each of them. I am something. You are something. Practice each of these. When you're done, unpause the video and keep going. Past tense of to be verbs. This is exactly the same as last time, except for the conjugation and that it's happening in the past. When be is being used and the subject is I, you use was. When the subject is it, you use was. When the subject is they or you or we, you use were. And when the subject is he or she, you use was. These are all the past tense forms of to be verbs. Pause the video and practice these by forming your own sentences for a minute or two with each of these. Practice each one and form a sentence with each one. This is your homework. Write a letter about a place that you have visited. Tell me about how it went. Use past, present, and future verb tenses as necessary. Remember that a letter starts with an introduction, lessons 1 and 2, has a conversation, lesson 3, and uses proper format of verbs, lesson 4 and 5. Remember that a letter begins with dear, whoever you're addressing it to, comma, and then you begin the rest of the letter, okay? The homework must be completed. You can message it to me, you can comment it to me, you can email it to me, you can tie the letter to a pigeon and send it to me, you can light a fire and send me smoke signals, you can use colored paper to send me pictures. I don't care how you do it. This must be completed because I have to know what level your English is at after 5 lessons. Make sure to complete this assignment one way or another, okay? Thanks, good luck, God bless, have fun.